We're counting down the top 10 easiest high-altitude mountains you can actually climb. While most climbers chase notorious death zone summits with staggering risks, this list reveals accessible peaks over 14,000 feet, where the odds favor your survival, thanks to established trails, rescue systems, and less deadly hazards than the headlines suggest. From beginner-friendly routes with ultra-low fatality rates to international giants with surprising safety records, we'll dissect where logistics, weather, and infrastructure tip the balance between risk and reward. Which summit proves the safest start? Let's begin our countdown with number 10. Mount Elbert rises above the Colorado Rockies at 14,440 feet, but you won't find technical climbing or deadly glaciers here. Instead, a well-worn Class 1 trail leads from the valley floor all the way to the summit. For many, Elbert is the first true taste of high altitude, a place where the air thins, but the risks remain manageable. The trail system branches into 3 main routes, each offering quick exit points if weather turns or altitude sickness sets in. That margin for error is rare at this elevation. Most emergencies logged by local search and rescue teams are medical, not the result of falls or exposure. In fact, the fatality rate is less than 0.02%. Statistically, it's safer than many city parks. Afternoon lightning is the one hazard climbers must respect, with most incidents occurring when hikers ignore the early start rule. On Elbert, experience is built step by step, with the freedom to turn back always close at hand. For those seeking altitude without unnecessary risk, it's the ideal starting line. Mount Shasta rises from the Cascade Range with a reputation for accessibility, but its story is written in snow and shifting seasons. At 14,179 feet, it is a favorite for solo climbers, thanks to a network of non-technical summer routes that wind up its flanks from trailheads reachable by car. The Avalanche Gulch route, most popular in late spring and early summer, draws hundreds each weekend. But beneath the surface of this easy access lies a different set of risks. Shasta's slopes are mapped each season by the U.S. Forest Service, marking active avalanche zones and warning climbers of rapid snowpack changes. In winter and spring, avalanches are the main hazard, conditions that can turn a simple ascent into a rescue operation. Search and rescue teams respond to dozens of incidents each year, but the normalized fatality rate remains around 0.2 per 1,000 climbers, a figure that stands out for a mountain of this size. On Shasta, route choice and timing matter. The right season and attention to avalanche bulletins keep risk in check, offering a high-altitude experience where preparation truly pays off. Mount Rainier towers over Washington at 14,411 feet, drawing both seasoned alpinists and those training for Himalayan giants. Unlike the dry slopes of Shasta, Rainier's upper flanks are a living classroom of crevasses, seracs, and shifting snow bridges, an environment that demands skills most American peaks never require. Nearly every summit bid involves roped glacier travel, guided by established ladders and wanded routes, maintained by the National Park Service and professional guides. Each year, park rangers log hundreds of search and rescue calls, with incidents ranging from minor missteps to full-scale crevasse extractions. After a tragic accident in 2014, which claimed 6 climbers, safety reforms brought stricter route marking and mandatory guide training, sharply reducing fatal incidents. Today, the summit success rate hovers around 50%, and the fatality rate is less than 0.1%, remarkably low for a glaciated peak of this size. Rainier's institutional support means mistakes are less likely to be fatal, offering climbers the rare chance to learn high-altitude glacier skills with a safety net beneath their crampons. At 14,505 feet, Mount Whitney stands as the highest summit in the contiguous United States. Yet its most popular route is a well-graded trail, a path that sees more than 30,000 hikers each year. Unlike glaciated peaks or volcanic slopes, Whitney's main challenge isn't technical skill, but access, tightly regulated by a Forest Service permit lottery. Each spring, about 35,000 hopefuls enter for a chance to hike the mountain's famous switchbacks, but only a fraction receive the coveted permits. This system isn't just about crowd control, it's a deliberate safety measure. By capping daily traffic, rangers reduce the risk of accidents from congestion and overuse, making it easier for search and rescue teams to respond quickly when needed. Incident logs show that most emergencies involve altitude sickness or simple missteps, not falls or exposure. The normalized fatality rate is about 0.06 per 1,000 attempts, one of the lowest for any high-altitude peak with this level of traffic. Well-marked trails, ranger patrols, and reliable communication make Whitney a model of managed risk. Success here depends less on mountaineering experience and more on respecting the permit system, watching the weather, and knowing your limits. For many, Whitney is proof that good governance can make high-altitude adventures safer for everyone. Pico de Orizaba, known locally as Tepetl, Sayet Lahol Thpetl, stands as Mexico's highest summit at 18,491 feet, but its approach is defined more by logistics than by hardship. The drive to Piedra Grande Hut climbs to nearly 14,000 feet, one of the highest vehicle-accessible trailheads on the continent. For many climbers, this shortcut to altitude is a game changer. Instead of a days-long trek through remote valleys, most arrive at base camp in a sturdy 4x4, stepping from the dust and pine forests straight into the thin air of high camp. This rapid ascent means acclimatization becomes the main challenge, not technical climbing. The standard route up the Jamapa Glacier is a steady 35-degree snow slope, non-technical but demanding respect for altitude and weather. Guided groups regularly report summit success rates of 70 to 75% during stable windows, especially for those who spend extra nights at Piedra Grande to adapt. Rescue accessibility is another advantage. Local mountain teams and civil protection agencies can reach the hut by vehicle, and while helicopter evacuations are rare, ground teams are skilled at staging rapid descents when needed. Most incidents involve sudden storms or altitude sickness, but the proximity of base camp shortens rescue times dramatically compared to remote Andean or Himalayan peaks. For climbers seeking the thrill of nearly 19,000 feet without the ordeal of a multi-day approach, Orizaba's drive-up logistics create a margin for error that's rare at this elevation. Mount Elbrus stands as Europe's highest peak, but what sets it apart from other giants is its engineered margin for safety. The southern route begins not with a remote trek, but with a cable car ride that lifts climbers from the valley floor up to 12,500 feet, bypassing days of exposure and fatigue. From there, a series of huts, Garabashi, Diesel, and others, dot the route every 1,000 feet, providing shelter in changing weather. This network isn't just a convenience, it's a lifeline. When a sudden whiteout swept the mountain in May 2017, 13 climbers found themselves trapped above 16,000 feet. Instead of waiting out the storm in isolation, they radioed for help. Within hours, Russian rescue teams coordinated snowcat vehicles to reach the stranded group, guiding them to the nearest shelter and then down to the cable car station. The entire operation, from distress call to safety, took less than 6 hours, a timeline unthinkable on most high-altitude peaks. The fatality rate for guided ascents via the south side sits between 0.05 and 0.1%, a fraction of what's seen on similarly tall, less accessible mountains. Mechanized rescue, real-time weather monitoring, and the ability to descend rapidly all play a role. On Elbrus, infrastructure doesn't just make the climb easier, it stacks the odds in favor of survival, even when the mountain throws its worst at those who dare to reach its summit. Mount Damavand rises from the Iranian plateau to 18,406 feet, its flanks free of glaciers and technical obstacles. Most climbers expect a straightforward ascent, a long walk on scree and ash, with little more than altitude to test their resolve. But just below the summit, an invisible threat lingers. Sulfur vents, scattered around the crater rim, release toxic gases that can pool without warning. On calm days, these fumes become trapped in hollows, turning the final mission into a hazardous gamble. In 2021, an Iranian climbing club faced a near disaster when their handheld gas sensors failed during a summit attempt. As the wind died, a group of climbers found themselves coughing and disoriented, their alarms silent. Guides recognize the signs and rush the team downhill, avoiding tragedy by minutes. 3 required evacuation for severe respiratory distress, but all survived. This incident changed local protocol. Now, experienced guides insist on carrying calibrated gas detectors and train climbers to watch for burning throats or sudden dizziness. There are no permanent monitoring stations above the high camps, and evacuation from the summit can take hours. Rescue teams are based far below, and self-rescue is often the only option. Damavand's main risk isn't the terrain or the weather, but a silent, shifting hazard that demands constant vigilance. The mountain's low fatality rate hides this reality. Here, the margin for error is defined not by technical skill, but by the wind and the unseen gases it carries. At 19,341 feet, Mount Kilimanjaro stands as Africa's tallest peak, yet its approach is defined not by technical barriers, but by a carefully managed human system. Every climber is required by Tanzanian law to hire a licensed guide, no exceptions. This isn't just about navigation, it's a deliberate safeguard against the mountain's greatest threat, acute mountain sickness. With more than 30,000 attempts each year, Kilimanjaro's trails bustle with teams moving between camps, each checkpoint staffed with guides trained to spot early signs of altitude illness. At designated camps like Barranco and Barafu, daily health checks are routine. Pulse oximeters, symptom questionnaires, and even basic field medical kits are standard issue for reputable operators. If a climber shows symptoms, headache, nausea, confusion, guides have the authority to halt the ascent and initiate descent protocols immediately. On popular routes, evacuation tracks allow for rapid descent by stretcher or, in lower sections, by vehicle. This system isn't theoretical, it's tested daily. The result is a summit success rate above 95% for those who follow guide instructions, and a documented fatality rate under 0.03%, remarkably low for a mountain of this altitude. Medical oversight isn't just a feature, it's embedded in the climbing culture. Operators keep detailed health records, and the Park Service reviews incident logs after every season to refine protocols. The scale of Kilimanjaro's operation, with hundreds of guides and porters supporting each climbing wave, has made it a proving ground for mass-market high-altitude safety. Here, the challenge is not technical climbing, but adapting to thin air under the watchful eye of a system designed to catch trouble before it turns deadly. Aconcagua rises above the Argentine Andes at 22,837 feet, holding the title of the highest mountain outside Asia. Yet for all its altitude, the normal route offers a non-technical path to the top, making it the ultimate test for climbers seeking high elevation without technical climbing. The journey begins at Horcones Valley, where the first of several stone refuges, Confluencia Camp, provides shelter from sudden storms. Higher up, Plaza de Mulas sits at 14,300 feet, acting as both a base camp and a lifeline. These huts aren't just for comfort. They are critical for acclimatization and serve as staging grounds for rapid response if trouble strikes. Aconcagua's reputation is built on its infrastructure and rescue readiness. Provincial park rangers staff the route each season, equipped with radios and protocols for helicopter evacuation. In most emergencies, cardiac events, altitude sickness, severe frostbite, a climber can be airlifted from Plaza de Mulas to a hospital in Mendoza within hours, weather permitting. That margin for rescue is rare at this altitude, where on Himalayan or Karakoram peaks, evacuation can take days or may not be possible at all. Still, the mountain's scale brings real consequences. The fatality rate on Aconcagua's normal route hovers around 0.4%, the highest on this list, mostly from altitude illness and exposure, not falls. Success rates are lower than on other non-technical giants, about 30 to 40%, because the weather can turn without warning, and the sheer length of the climb tests patience and endurance. For those who prepare, the hut system and rescue logistics offer a safety net that's unmatched at this elevation. Aconcagua stands as the upper boundary of what's possible for non-technical high-altitude adventure, where the risk is managed but never fully removed. Denali rises above the Alaskan wilderness at 20,310 feet, a cold giant that tests every climber who steps onto its slopes. What sets Denali apart from other high-altitude peaks isn't just its scale or the relentless cold, but the safety net woven by decades of innovation and oversight. The West Buttress route, the most traveled path to the summit, follows moderate snow and ice slopes, rarely exceeding an alpine grade of AI2. But the real difference lies in the presence of the National Park Service rangers, whose field clinics and rescue protocols have become the gold standard for high-altitude safety. Every spring, a seasonal ranger camp is established at 14,200 feet. Here, medics and mountaineering experts monitor weather, treat altitude illness, and coordinate rescues. The clinic was shaped by the work of Dr. Peter Hackett, whose triage methods for acute mountain sickness and high-altitude pulmonary edema have saved countless lives. Rangers track every summit attempt, logging incidents and deploying rapid response teams when needed. The median rescue time is less than 6 hours, a figure almost unheard of on mountains this tall. Helicopter support, staged at Talkeetna and ready to launch when weather permits, means that injured or ill climbers can be evacuated from high camps in a matter of hours. This capability stands in stark contrast to the days-long waits common on remote Himalayan or Andean peaks, where rescue is often a matter of luck and stamina. On Denali, even in the heart of a storm, teams know help is never far away. The numbers tell the story. Over a recent 25-year span, the fatality rate for climbers on Denali has held steady at about 0.14%, orders of magnitude lower than on Everest or K2. Most deaths result from falls or sudden weather, not from systemic failures or abandonment. The presence of rangers, field medics, and a deeply ingrained culture of self-reporting and preparedness means that small mistakes rarely become tragedies. Denali is also a training ground for expedition teams headed to the world's highest summits. The mountain's notorious cold and long summit days force climbers to master pacing, layering, and risk assessment at altitude. Yet, unlike the death zones of the Himalaya, Denali offers a margin for error, a chance to learn, adapt, and if needed, retreat with help close at hand. For those seeking the full experience of extreme altitude with the best odds of survival, Denali stands alone at the top of the list, a place where institutional support, rescue speed, and technical challenge are balanced in a way that makes the summit both an achievement and a return ticket home. From Mount Elbert's beginner-friendly trails to Denali's formidable heights with elite rescue support, this countdown proves that high altitude doesn't have to mean high risk. Across all 10 entries, the clear pattern is infrastructure. Established routes, ranger stations, cable cars, and mandatory guides consistently shift the odds in favor of climbers. Surprisingly, even peaks nearing 20,000 feet, like Kilimanjaro and Elbrus, offer success rates above 90% when supported by human systems, far outpacing the grim statistics of Himalayan death zones. The most shocking insight is not the altitude, but how modern logistics and rescue access now outweigh raw elevation when it comes to survivability. Each mountain on this list qualified by balancing significant altitude exposure with managed risk, showing that preparation and infrastructure matter more than summit prestige. Ultimately, these 10 peaks reveal a new truth in mountaineering. The pursuit of high places can be both challenging and statistically safe, provided climbers choose mountains where survival odds are built into the very landscape.